The sound of one man standing aloneth. Applause was loud at first. Cheers filled the theater. Flashing lights, cameras clicking, a sold-out crowd waiting for something spectacular. But then, something shifted, and all it took was a single word. Keanu Reeves had just stepped onto the stage. Not for a film, not for an award, but for a charity event. He wasn't promoting anything. He wasn't getting paid. He just wanted to speak. About kindness, about loss, about starting over. But before he could even finish his first sentence, a voice from the back shouted, "You're irrelevant." Some people laughed, others turned. And Keanu, he paused, not because he was surprised, but because he felt something deeper. Pain, not his, someone else's, hidden in that anger. He took a breath and smiled gently, but more voices joined in. "Where's John Wick now? This isn't a movie, old man. Go back to your mansion." The room began to shift. Boos, jeers, phones, lifted to record the moment. And still, Keanu didn't walk off. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't even frown. He just stood there, still, calm, like a tree in a storm. And that's when everything began to change. 3 days earlier, Keanu had been at home, not in a mansion, like the tabloids claimed, but in a quiet apartment he kept above a bookstore in the city. He liked the noise of life around him: buses, dogs barking, people arguing gently about coffee orders. He sat on his couch reading a letter. It was from Maya. A young girl he'd met briefly during a hospital visit. She had lost her brother in an accident, and she had written something that stayed with him. "Everyone keeps telling me to be strong, but I don't know what that means. I just feel like I'm breaking quietly." Keanu stared at those words. They reminded him of himself, because even though he was loved by millions, he had lost too: his daughter, his partner, his best friend. So when he was asked to speak at the Humanity for Hope Gala, a fundraiser for children in trauma, he didn't say no. He said, "What time should I be there?" He didn't send a team. He didn't demand anything. He just showed up, alone. But now, as he stood on that stage being mocked, something strange happened. He saw a woman in the third row lower her phone. Her smile faded. He saw a man in the balcony stop laughing, and slowly, one voice rose in the silence. Let him speak. It wasn't shouted. It wasn't angry. It was soft, gentle, like someone asking for the room to listen. And another voice joined in. "Give him a chance." The boos faded, not because Keanu yelled, not because security stepped in, but because his stillness made the crowd reflect. Finally, he spoke. His voice was quiet. "It's okay. Really, I understand." He looked out over the crowd. "I know what it's like to be angry, to feel like the world forgot you, to wonder why someone like me is standing here when someone you loved is not." The theater went silent. Keanu stepped forward. "I didn't come here tonight to impress anyone or to talk about movies. I came because I got a letter from a young girl, a brave, hurting girl, and she reminded me what strength really looks like." He reached into his pocket. Pulled out the folded letter. "She said she feels like she's breaking quietly." Keanu looked down. His hands trembled slightly. "And I know what that feels like. I know what it's like to sit in a room full of people and still feel completely alone." Someone in the front row wiped a tear. Keanu looked up. "But what I've learned through all the grief and pain and silence is that kindness matters." He paused. "Not the kind you post online, but the kind you don't film, the kind that no one sees." His voice cracked a little. A smile for a stranger, a hand on a shoulder, listening when someone says they're not okay. He folded the letter again and placed it in his jacket. "I've made mistakes. I've lost people. I've felt forgotten. But tonight, I'm standing here because I believe we can do better. Not just for kids like Maya, but for each other." The room was still. So quiet you could hear the soft hum of the stage lights. Then, someone clapped. Then another, and another, until the entire room, the same one that had booed him moments earlier, stood on their feet, not because of fame, not because of power, but because one man had stood alone and chosen kindness over ego. After the event, Keanu didn't go to the press room. He didn't take photos. He didn't post a statement. He walked out the side door. A volunteer chased him down. Mr. Reeves, he turned. That girl, she said. Maya, she's here. Keanu blinked. She is, yeah. She didn't want to meet anyone. But she heard you were speaking. And she stayed. Keanu followed the volunteer to a quiet hallway. Maya stood there, 12 years old. Shy but strong. She looked up. You read my letter, she whispered. Keanu smiled gently. I did, and you gave me courage. She didn't know what to say. So he knelt down and said, thank you. She nodded. And then hugged him. Tight. And something inside Keanu, something hidden for years, began to heal. Not all at once, but enough. Outside, the cameras waited. But they missed the only moment that mattered. A man who'd once lost everything, finding hope in a child's quiet strength. Asterisk behind the curtain of kindness. The morning after the gala, headlines told two very different stories. Some said, Keanu Reeves silenced hecklers with raw truth. Others mocked, actor breaks down on stage. Is Hollywood done with Keanu? But Keanu didn't read any of them. He made a quiet promise to himself long ago. Never let noise control your truth. He spent that morning like he always did. A walk, and feeding the pigeons in the park near his apartment. There were no bodyguards, no cameras. Just an old man with a soft smile sitting next to him on the bench. You're the one they yelled at last night, the old man said. Keanu nodded. And you're also the one they stood up for, the man added. Keanu chuckled softly. I guess I was both. The old man tilted his head. You ever notice, he said, that people cheer and boo for the same thing, depending on what part of the story they're shown? Keanu looked at him. What do you mean? The man tapped his temple. Truth ain't what they hear, it's what they feel after everything else gets quiet. Keanu sat in silence, letting those words settle. Then the man stood up, nodded once, and walked away. Keanu never got his name, but the words stayed with him. Later that week, he received a small envelope. No stamp, no return address. Inside, a photo. It was Maya. Smiling, really smiling. On the back, written in shaky but strong handwriting, I feel less broken now. Thank you. Keanu stared at it for a long time, longer than he meant to, and he realized something. His whole life, people had called him humble. But humility isn't just silence. It's standing still when the world wants you to run. And sometimes, it's using your voice, even when it shakes. That night, he got a call from an old friend, Rosa Alvarez, a school counselor who ran programs for children with trauma. They had met years ago during a film shoot near a local shelter. She didn't say hello. She just said, we need you. Keanu didn't ask what it was about. He just said, where should I be? 2 days later, he arrived at a small community center in East Los Angeles. No press, no stage. Just a room full of kids, some as young as 6, others in their teens, all of them wearing the same expression, distrust. Rosa walked over and whispered, they've seen things most adults couldn't survive. Some lost parents, some lost homes, most lost trust. Keanu nodded. He didn't walk in like a celebrity. He walked in like a guest, and he didn't talk. Not at first. He sat on the floor, cross-legged, quiet. Some kids whispered. Some ignored him. A few laughed. But one girl, Lila, watched him closely. She finally asked, why are you here? Keanu looked at her. Because someone once showed up for me when I didn't ask them to. Were you famous back then? She said. He smiled. No, just as sad. The room fell quiet. And Lila whispered, me too. Rosa gave him permission to return. Every Friday, Keanu sat with the kids. No scripts, no lectures. Just stories. Sometimes about his life, sometimes about movies, but mostly about pain. He told them about grief, about losing people you love and still waking up the next morning. He told them about silence and how sometimes it speaks louder than words, and they listened, not because he was famous. But because he was real. One Friday, Lila didn't speak at all. She just stared at her shoes. When the group ended, Keanu waited by the door. You okay? He asked. She shrugged. Then said something that broke him inside. My dad's getting out of prison. I don't know if I want him to find me. Keanu sat back down. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "You don't have to decide anything tonight, but whatever you choose, you won't have to face it alone." She looked at him, and for the first time, she cried. Not the kind of cry that needed fixing. The kind that meant someone finally felt safe. That weekend, Rosa told Keanu that some of the staff were unsure if he should keep coming. Some of them think it's too much attention. She said, "Too risky." Keanu nodded. Then he asked her to call a meeting. He didn't prepare a speech. He just stood in front of the staff and said, "I didn't come here to be seen. I came because these kids don't have many people who listen without trying to fix them." He paused. "I can stop showing up, but I hope you'll still let them be heard." The staff didn't answer right away, but later, Rosa sent him a message. They voted. "Your family now." One day, Lila asked, "Do you ever feel like you're not enough?" Keanu smiled gently. "Almost every day, even with all your movies, especially with them." He said. She frowned. "Why?" "Because those movies end. But people, their pain doesn't." Lila nodded. "Then I'm glad you're not a movie." And he laughed. A real, belly laugh he hadn't felt in months. But outside the center, things weren't quiet. Paparazzi had found out where he'd been going, and one day, a photo surfaced. Him sitting on the floor, arm around a crying child. It went viral. Some called it inspiring. Others accused him of using kids for image repair. Keanu didn't respond. But Rosa did. She wrote a post. Short, simple. He never asked to be thanked. He just showed up, week after week, when our doors were closed and no cameras were around. And still, Keanu kept coming, because the world could spin however it wanted. But kindness doesn't need permission. It just needs showing up. Again and again. The storm outside the door. It started with a headline, one he didn't expect, one that didn't belong to him, but somehow still did. Keanu Reeves linked to underground therapy group for troubled youth. Is it legal? The article didn't mention names, but it shared just enough to light a fire. Photos leaked. Comments exploded. Speculations spread faster than facts. And while the kids at the center still welcomed him with open arms, the world outside began to raise its voice again. He had been here before, judged by people who had never spoken to him, criticized by strangers who only knew the poster, not the person. But this time, it was different. Because this time, it involved children. And that meant they weren't just coming after him. They were coming after the one place where those kids felt safe. Rosa called him that morning. Her voice was sharp and tight. "Keanu, the board is nervous. People are threatening to pull funding. Some are calling it a cult." He sat on the edge of his bed, holding the phone close. "Do they know what we've been doing?" "They don't care," she said. "They care about headlines, donors, image. And what about the kids?" Rosa was silent, then softly said, "They're scared, too." Lila asked if you were going to disappear like her dad. Those words hurt more than any headline. "I need to talk to them," he said. "Then come now, before the door closes for good." He didn't dress to blend in. He wore the same black hoodie, the same jeans. He wanted the kids to know he wasn't hiding. As soon as he walked into the room, all eyes turned to him, some afraid, some curious, but all watching. Keanu sat on the floor, like always, his back straight, his face calm, even though his chest was heavy. "I heard what people are saying," he began, "and I understand if you're confused, maybe even angry." No one spoke. So he kept going. "I came here because someone once gave me a place to talk, not perform, not be famous, just to speak." He looked at Lila. "I never came here to teach you anything. I just wanted you to know you're not alone." A boy in the back, Isaiah, stood up. His voice was shaking. "Are you leaving?" Keanu looked at him. "That's not my choice anymore." After the session, Rosa took Keanu to her office. "There's going to be a vote tonight," she said. "The board will decide if you can continue coming." "Should I speak to them? I don't think they'll listen." Keanu nodded slowly. "Then let me speak to the ones who will." That evening, he posted a video. Just him, no music, no filter, just a quiet room, a chair, and a man telling the truth. "I want to talk to anyone who read the stories, the posts, the half-truths. I want to tell you that I have never, not once, Tried to make myself the center of these kids' lives. I sat. I listened. I shared. I learned. And if that makes you uncomfortable, I understand. But please, before you judge a moment in a photo, ask yourself what kindness looks like in a world full of cameras and silence. He ended the video with something simple. I don't need the last word. I just need you to remember, the kids are still here, hurting, healing, growing. Let's not silence them because you're unsure of me. Within hours, the video had millions of views. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. The next day, the vote happened. Keanu waited outside the center, leaning against the wall, hands in his pockets. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't hopeful. He was present. Finally, Rosa stepped out. Her eyes were red. They voted no, she whispered. Keanu nodded. His face didn't fall. I understand. She looked at him, but the kids asked to say goodbye. He stepped back inside the building one last time. The room felt heavier. But the moment the kids saw him, they ran to him. Some hugged. Some stood quietly nearby. And Lila, she held out a small notebook. We made this for you, she said. Inside were drawings, letters, each one saying thank you. Keanu flipped through the pages slowly, carefully. Then closed the book, held it to his chest, and knelt in front of them. I'm not going far, he said. Just enough to give you space, but not enough to forget you. They nodded. And he walked out the door. Not defeated, not broken. Just more aware of what love without cameras really looks like. Outside, reporters waited. Mr. Reeves, do you have a comment? He paused. Then said quietly, yes, kindness doesn't always win the vote, but it always leaves a mark. And he walked away. The quiet resistance. Keanu Reeves didn't speak to the press for weeks. Not because he was ashamed, not because he was hiding. But because the voices that mattered most had already spoken. The kids at the center had said thank you, and that was enough for him. But the world didn't slow down. The story kept spinning. Channels debated his motives. Some called him manipulative, others called him brave. But what they missed was that Keanu never wanted to be the story. His days became quieter after the center vote. Mornings with books, evenings with walks, and in between, he wrote. Not a script, not a memoir, just letters. To Lila, to Isaiah, to Maya, to each child he sat with. Not to give advice, not to sound wise, but to remind them they were still seen. He mailed each one with care. No signature, just one line at the bottom. I believe in you. One morning, a letter came back. Not a return, a reply. It was from Laila. It read, I told my new counselor about you. She said sometimes the world removes the wrong people from our lives. But now I write to, you showed me how to speak without yelling. Thank you. Keanu folded the letter gently, placed it in a box next to Maya's photo. He didn't cry, but he closed his eyes for a moment longer than usual. One afternoon, Rosa called. Keanu, I know you're not looking for anything, but we have a situation. He sat up. What kind? Another center, on the west side. They're under fire. Too many kids, not enough staff, and the board, they want to shut it down. Keanu didn't hesitate. Send me the address. He arrived quietly, no press, no suit, just a hoodie and a small notebook. The building was small, chipped paint, tired windows. Inside, the air was heavy with silence, not peace, but the kind of silence that comes from too much pain. The staff looked exhausted. One counselor, Luis, recognized him. We didn't call the media. I know, Keanu said. I came because someone needs to. You're not scared this will get out again? Keanu shrugged. Maybe the world needs to get tired of attacking kindness. The kids here were different, older, harsher, more walls. One boy, Malik, sat in the back of the room, arms crossed, eyes hard. What's a movie star gonna do for us? He asked. Keanu sat across from him. Double quotes, listen, if you'll let me. Malik laughed without humor. You're just here for the story. Keanu didn't flinch. I've had enough stories. I'm here for the pages nobody reads. Malik looked away, but something in his jaw softened. Keanu returned every week. No schedule, no fanfare. Just presence. He helped paint walls, fix broken chairs, sweep floors. And slowly, The kids began to talk, not because he was famous, but because he didn't leave. One girl, Annika, told him, "Most people show up once. You're still here." Keanu smiled. "So are you." But the pressure built again. A blogger exposed his visits. Videos were leaked. Some clips were real. Others were edited to twist his actions. A major outlet ran a story. Why can't Keanu Reeves stay out of troubled youth centers? He was painted as obsessed, as unstable. People on social media chose sides. Arguments flared. But Keanu didn't respond. Because while the world debated, he was helping Malik build a bookshelf. Not for a headline, but for Malik's little sister. Rosa visited the new center. After watching a session, she pulled Keanu aside. "You know this is going to keep happening, right?" He nodded. "I know. So why keep showing up?" Keanu looked out the window. Malik and Annika were laughing together for the first time in weeks, because some hearts are worth more than reputations. But things turned darker. Someone sent a letter to the center, anonymous. Accusing Keanu of manipulation, demanding he be removed. The board panicked. They told him to take a break, step back, protect the center. Keanu agreed. But that night, the kids protested. Not with signs, not with anger. They filmed their own video. Each one saying what he had meant to them. Malik said, "He's the first adult who didn't try to fix me, just sat there and made me feel human again." Annika said, "He never asked us to forgive, just helped us feel safe." They ended the video with one line, "Bring him back or we walk." It went viral. This time, not because of him, but because of them. Their words, their truth. And for once, the world listened. 3 days later, the center board reversed its decision. They issued a statement. "We were wrong." His presence healed more than it harmed. And Keanu returned. Quietly. Just in time to see the kids paint a mural on the back wall. A tree, tall and wide, with words carved into the trunk. "You stayed." The kindness that couldn't be erased. The mural stood taller than the wall itself. A tree with roots stretching deep, branches full of color. But it wasn't the painting that made Keanu stop. It was the names written in the roots. Not his, not Rose's, not the staff, but the kids. Every child who had sat in that room. Every name that had once felt invisible. Painted in bold, gentle strokes. At the base, in tiny letters, a single sentence: "We grow because someone stayed." Keanu stood in front of it for a long time, not speaking, not posing. Just feeling. A few of the kids gathered behind him. Annika asked, "Do you like it?" He nodded. "It's perfect." Malik stepped beside her. "We voted. That tree's you." Keanu blinked. "Me?" "Yeah," Malik said. "You're the roots." That same day, Rosa shared news. A foundation, small, but growing, wanted to fund permanent healing spaces like this across the city. Not just therapy centers, but places where people could just be. With art, books, silence, support. They wanted Keanu to be the face of it. But he said, "No, I'll help. But the face should be theirs." He pointed to the kids. "They're the ones who kept showing up." A few weeks later, he received a message from someone unexpected. A woman named Elena, a former producer he hadn't worked with in over a decade. She was now a board member for a major streaming service. She asked him to meet. Not about a film, about something else, a different kind of story. She said. He met her in a quiet cafe in Silver Lake. "No cameras, just tea. People are watching what you're doing," Elena said. "And they're listening. They usually stop listening by the second headline." Keanu replied, "Not this time." She slid a folder across the table. Inside, a concept for a docu-series. Real stories, real voices, no actors, no scripts. Just raw conversations with people who'd been silenced. Teens, veterans, grieving parents, survivors. The kind of people Keanu had quietly walked beside for years. "We don't want you to perform," she said. "We want you to be what you already are, someone who listens without judgment." Keanu closed the folder. His heart beat slower, not from nerves, but from purpose. "I'll do it," he said, "but only if the camera never points at me for long." The series launched 6 months later. Quiet voices, no marketing push, no flashy promo. Just soft drops, one episode at a time. Each one starting with a simple sentence. You don't have to shout to be heard. Keanu didn't host. He didn't narrate. He sat. He asked. He listened. And people responded. They cried. They laughed. They told stories they'd hidden for years. One episode. A girl who hadn't spoken in public since her brother's death looked into the camera and whispered, "I thought silence meant weakness, but he made me feel like it meant strength." The internet didn't explode with outrage. Instead, it filled with quiet, people posting their own videos, their own stories, not viral, not loud, but real. Laila single quotes S mom sent Keanu a message. You gave her voice back, not with words, but by not leaving when things got uncomfortable. He kept the message on his fridge, next to the photo of Maya, and the drawing Malik once gave him, a cartoon version of Keanu holding a flashlight in the dark. Underneath, Malik had written, "You didn't try to fix us. You just stayed in the dark until we could see again. But peace never lasts forever." One morning, a video surfaced, a clip taken years ago, out of context. Keanu at a bar, talking to a man who would later be caught in a corporate scandal. The media grabbed it. Keanu linked to illegal charity money? Is the kindness a cover? The storm returned. Louder than before. People demanded answers. He gave none, because lies were loud. But truth doesn't panic. A week passed. 2. Then something unexpected happened. Malik released a video. Him. No script. Just a phone camera and raw honesty. Double quotes. I know you're all watching that clip of him, but you weren't there when I was breaking things and no one cared. You weren't there when I didn't speak for weeks and he just sat with me anyway. You weren't there when my sister couldn't sleep and he brought her a book without even saying his name. I was, and he saved me, not with speeches, with presence. So believe what you want. But I know the truth. It spread fast, not because it was dramatic. But because it was pure. One voice, speaking from a place no tabloid could reach. Others followed. Anika. Rosa. Elena. Even strangers. One tweet simply said, "I once saw him help a man who fell in a grocery store. No cameras. Just instinct." You don't fake that. The headlines faded. Again. Because the world might forget scandals, but it never forgets how someone made it feel. Keanu stood in front of the mural one last time. He touched the painted trunk. The root that had his name, quietly scratched in by Malik weeks ago. You stayed. He whispered the words aloud, not as a question. As a truth. Asterisk. The man who changed nothing but changed everything. Grain fell soft that morning. The kind that didn't soak your skin, just reminded you to feel it. Keanu Reeves walked alone down the path toward the final event. No red carpet, no stage lights, no cameras. Just folding chairs, a canvas tent, and a group of children painting in the mud. Today was the grand opening of the first quiet place, a name chosen not by Keanu, but by the kids. Rosa stood near the fence, clipboard in hand, rain on her glasses. She smiled when she saw him. "You're early," she said. "Old habit," he replied. "Don't like missing the beginning. This is the beginning," she said. Keanu looked around. What used to be an abandoned parking lot was now a small garden, a warm shelter, and a quiet room with books, art, and no screens. A space built for reflection, not to talk, not to explain, just to be. He ran his fingers along the edge of a wooden bench. Hand carved. Malik made it. He turned, and there Malik was, older now, taller, hair tied back. "You okay?" Malik asked. Keanu nodded. "Better than I've been in a long time." "You ready to say something?" Keanu smiled. "You mean to the crowd?" Malik laughed. "There's like 20 people, and most of them are here for the free snacks." Keanu chuckled. But the moment he stepped onto the small platform near the garden, it wasn't the crowd that caught his attention. It was the silence, a kind of reverence. The kids didn't clap, they didn't cheer, they just listened. And Keanu looked out over them, hands in his coat, voice soft. "A while ago, someone shouted at me while I was on stage. They said I was irrelevant. And in that moment, part of me believed them, because the world moves fast, and sometimes kindness doesn't keep up. But then I met a group of people who didn't need noise to be heard. They just needed someone to stay." He paused. The only sound was the rain on the tent. We live in a time where everything is recorded, but very little is remembered. So this space, this quiet place isn't here to be filmed. It's here to be felt. It's not about being healed. It's about knowing you're not broken. He stepped down without a closing line, without a bow, without applause, and that's what made the moment real. Later that day, Lila arrived. She had grown. Her voice was stronger, her eyes brighter. She hugged Keanu with both arms and whispered, "I wrote another letter." He opened it. It said, "I don't feel like I'm breaking anymore. I feel like I'm still learning how to stand. But now, I know there's ground under me." Keanu folded the letter, put it in his coat, next to the others, his silent collection of truths. Over the next year, quiet places began opening in other cities. No signs, no logos, just open doors and soft lights. Keanu visited them quietly, not to speak, but to sit, sometimes next to strangers, sometimes next to no one, but always to be present, because in a world full of noise, presence is the loudest form of love. Years later, a journalist wrote a book, not about his films, but about what she called the second life of Keanu Reeves. When asked for a quote, he gave her one sentence: "I didn't want to fix the world. I just didn't want to walk past it anymore." At a small ceremony, attended by only a few, Malik and Annika unveiled a final mural. This one showed a bench under a tree with a man sitting quietly, reading a letter, and carved in the roots were names, hundreds of them. Not celebrities, not leaders. Just lives, touched by someone who chose to stay when it was easier to leave. Keanu never went back to the spotlight. He didn't need to, because the brightest lights often come from the people who sit with us in the dark.